are toys for the boys.
Unfortunately, I think you're right.
In the US apparently, 53% of public spending is on military. Just 15% is on education.
Yeah, that's
shocking.
It's shocking beyond words,
It's horrible.
isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think if you have a weapon, you're more likely to use it, aren't you?
Well,
You'll resort to it.
weapons are lubricants
Yeah.
for violence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think if you didn't have a weapon to hand, first of all, it would make all nations equal. Because
Absolutely.
no one nation would be able to
That's
impose
brilliant.
its will on another nation. But I think people would learn to talk, they'd learn to negotiate, they'd learn to express their feelings, they'd learn to listen to each other. And I think these are all things that would de-escalate the violence in the world. And I'm sad to say, I actually think that this is primarily a man problem.
No,
I
agree with you.
really don't think that if women had been having more say in the world, that this amount of energy would have been put into the military-industrial complex and the use of military.
Do you think it's a recent development? Do you think it's a post-World War II development, or have we always been like this? Was there ever a time in your lifetime did you feel that things looked like they were going to move in the right direction and then they were shot back?
Well, I suppose I was brought up in Britain, kind of post-war. Well, the north of Ireland for the first 10 years, and then I went to Scotland, so I got into the sort of British way of thinking, which was very post-war. A lot of arrogance, a lot of jingoism, a really clear message that we won the war. That would be what they would be saying.
Right.
Yeah.
Goodies and baddies. And then we had the Cold War. And of course that war was ended with the dropping of nuclear bombs.
Yeah.
Everybody forgets there's only one nation on earth that has actually used nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
And it's America.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's true.
That's something that we do forget. I've said it to Steve many times that we grew up, especially here in Ireland, in the 70s and the 80s when people were running out of the country and trying to get to America. America was the shining light on the hill, and we thought they were always the good guys, and you'd be forgiven for thinking that America's position as international pariah is only since Trump took over, but actually they were the ones to use nuclear weapons. They were the ones to firebomb Dresden.
We had the crisis, the Cuba crisis.
Yeah.
So I remember that being at school, and the idea that there was going to be a nuclear war, and that was very real for me in my teens. And then the what we call the Cold War.
Yeah.
I think all nations in their history have behaved badly at some point, but America did have this idea that they were sort of like God's country, and they were always right. Not true.
Not true.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, I think I always saw America as a terrorist nation. I have to be truthful.
Yeah.
They were terrorists in Vietnam, weren't they? That's the first time I remember.
Yeah, it's always the winners who write the histories, and in Vietnam's case, they didn't even win. So, yeah.
No.
You're somebody, I suppose, even from our discussion now, but you're somebody who's always struck me as having very strong convictions, both political and I suppose moral and religious as well. Is that something that's always been with you? Like, were you a pacifist as a teenager? Were you somebody who saw these wrongs in the world?
At my very early life, I was brought up with a very domineering mother, and I used not using my voice as my weapon of choice as a child. So I didn't really have a voice, and I didn't use a voice. I suppose when I got into my teenage years, I don't quite know what happened, but I began to vocalise the thoughts that I was having. And I think I probably discovered that I was more outspoken than my friends.
Yeah.
And surprised myself almost.
Mm.
And probably as well, I was more, I had stronger opinions. I don't know why.
And what were those opinions? Like, were you part of the anti-war movement? And
I remember protesting against the war in Vietnam when I first went to university. I think I had a strong sense of even at a very local kind of level of justice and injustice. I think that's been a ribbon through my life.
Mm.
I don't like to see people being treated badly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, what about, you think that there's a moral place for anger in this world, or is there best no place for it?
Well, I think anger is a real feeling.
Pardon?
I think it's a real feeling.
It is, yeah.
I think it's that we all have the capacity for anger, and therefore I don't think that you can deny it and say there is no place for it, because it's real, and we all have that capacity. And I think sometimes that righteous anger, if it's used to generate change rather than to hurt people, righteous anger can kind of be a driving motivation for a person. But I suppose it has to be transformed into some kind of action for good.
Yeah.
And I am a Christian, and Jesus did get angry.
Yeah,
He did get angry. He got angry at the money changers in the temple, didn't he? And the reason he got angry at them was because they were ripping the people off.
Yeah.
And they were being very hypocritical because they were doing it within the temple walls.
Yeah.
And he made his point, didn't he, by turning the tables over.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So.
Have you always been a Christian?
No.
Okay.
I didn't become a Christian until I was 54.
Okay, right.
I was always a searcher, and I probably, I had all kinds of new age avenues that I explored. Then I did an alpha course, alpha courses are quite big in Britain. They're kind of
not familiar with them.
Okay, it's a sort of 10-week course which introduces you to Christianity.
Okay.
A talk and then a discussion. Now I was a difficult person, and I was one of only 2 people on the course that finished it. The rest dropped out. And it wasn't until a year later that I suddenly had the realisation that I'd got it.
Right.
The penny had dropped.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I found myself writing. I keep notebooks all the time, and I every time I start a new notebook, I put something in it that's in my mind or thoughts, or some kind of a quote.
Yeah.
And I found myself writing, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." And I thought, my God, I've got it. I understand it.
Fantastic.
It's dropped right down from my head into my heart, and it's never shifted.
Wow. And
now I've struggled with finding a place, a Christian community
Yeah.
in which I feel at home, because I have these very left-wing views.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, because do you find, is it kind of a chicken and the chicken or the egg thing? Did the left-wing views come first, and that sense of moral outrage at wrongs,
Yes.
that came first before, or did you just find that Christianity
No,
was left
well,
wing in its essence?
No, I think I believe that Jesus was a very wild, radical person, and I think that's too much for the church.
Well, it's a radical idea to love your neighbours, isn't it? And help the poor, and yeah.
And yeah. So I actually sort of follow an online community called Red Letter Christians.
Red Letter Christians.
Who are very left-wing in
Left
their
wing,
look.
yeah.
In their look. I also follow a wonderful preacher in America that I found during COVID, the Reverend William Barber.
Oh, he's brilliant. Yeah.
Who leads the Poor People's Campaign
Yes.
in America.
Okay.
And so I look for people that resonate with the way I understand Jesus.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he's definitely got a moral compass and a hunger for justice
Absolutely.
for other people.
Absolutely.
You know, he's not focused on himself.
And I'm sure that his life is in danger every day.
Yeah.
I think he's like Martin Luther King. I think he's in huge danger. He's a massive challenge to the establishment.
Yeah.
And he's currently leading a thing called Moral Mondays at the moment, where he's going to seats of power and challenging the morality of things that are being passed and put into place in Trump's America.
Yeah, he's got a lot of challenges right now. Yeah.
So, do you remember when you first started writing?
Yeah, I started writing as a teenager, as I was finding my voice after this sort of deliberate mutedness.
Yeah.
Which was a weapon, I have to confess. There's nothing more annoying to somebody than not speaking.
Indeed, that's the case. Yeah.
But my writing life didn't last for very long. Two rather unpleasant things happened. First of all, my mother found my diaries.
Oh.
And she burned them.
Oh. Right.
Holy cow! Yeah.
They must have been strong stuff. That's all I can. So I thought that was a tough one. But she also found a bundle of poetry that I'd written, and she sent it to a teacher friend, who asked him to mark it.
Oh.
And it came back and was presented back to me covered in red ink.
Oh.
And with things scored out and God knows what. Anyway, I just thought it is not safe to write. And I was probably doing quite well. I was kind of winning school prizes.
Yeah.
I was on the editorial team of the school magazine, and I was.
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
I had a wonderful English teacher, and he introduced me. The poet that made the biggest impact on me was Dylan Thomas.
Yeah.
I remember being absolutely captivated by his use of language, and the lines at the end of Fern Hill, which I always struggle to say without getting emotional, even now.
Wow.
Time held me green and dying, though I sang in my chains like the sea, which I believe are on Dylan Thomas's grave.
Wow.
There was epitaph.
No.
But I don't know, there was something about Dylan Thomas's use of language that just switched something on for me. But I then went through a patch where I thought it's not safe to write, and so I didn't commit my thoughts to paper because I just didn't feel that it was safe to do that, and I didn't start writing again. I wrote very briefly in my 30s. I had a reunion with that teacher, and then he died quite suddenly after I'd met up with him again, and I'd started writing, and then I stopped, and I didn't write again till I was in my late 40s. And by that time, I was thinking, I don't care if it's safe or not.
Okay.
It was still there,
Yeah.
wanting.
Yeah.
You know, I needed to express myself.
You found your voice.
And felt comfortable about being in dangerous territory.
Yeah, yeah.
And you haven't shied away from dangerous territory since. You well, no, and I mean that in the very best way. Some of your poetry can be quite erotic, especially from your recent collection, Between Husbands. Do you feel that there's a certain level of bravery required to write candidly about sex, or do you see it as something very natural to talk about, especially with those early days when you were censored by the people closest to you? Do you still feel it's hard?
Well, the funny thing is, Wally, that it's usually men that describe it as erotic.
Right.
And actually, I feel as though I'm writing about feelings. And it just happens to be feelings around relationships.
But can feelings be erotic too?
Yes.
Yeah.
But that seems to be I think that women have said to me that they identify with the feelings that I've expressed.
Oh.
Whereas men say, "Ooh, this is erotic."
Well,
so which I think discloses the difference.
Yeah.
In very general terms, between men and women. But that book was really a catalogue of what had happened to me after the end of a marriage and up to the beginning of a new marriage. And I had about a 9-year period where I was in my 50s. I didn't have to account to my mother, and she didn't have any sway over me, and I couldn't get pregnant. And I wanted a new partner in my life. I'd kind of decided that life felt incomplete for me. It wouldn't be true for everybody, but I wanted to have new relationship.
Absolutely.
And you know that old saying, you have to kiss a lot of frogs before you find a prince.
Very true.
I had to kiss a lot of frogs.
Yeah, and you don't hold back on that, because you describe some of those frogs in detail, and they're very, very good. And I think men do. Maybe men identify with some of those frogs at times.
I would say this, that you really touched the universal with some of the poems there in Between Husbands. And I was struck by this one poem, What Was That All About? You describe the end of the beginning of a relationship so simply and eloquently. The throwing of rings, the harsh words, the slammed door, the silence. How long a time was it after that, that you realized what it was about? And how long after that realization before you could write about it?
I never really found out what that was all about, if I'm absolutely honest.
Yeah.
The end of that relationship didn't have communication that explained what it was all about.
Yeah.
So I could only surmise what it was about, and you can never get into somebody else's head, can you?
That's true.
So I didn't write about that, other than that.
Yeah.
And that would have been, that poem would have been the realization that I didn't know what it was all about. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think most of my poetry is written in the present. It's a response to present circumstances rather than being reflective or analytical
Yeah.
of past. I tend to write my poetry in order to sort out my present feelings.
And you do that brilliantly.
And I find it a very redeeming way of dealing with what are sometimes very overwhelming feelings.
Yeah.
Redeeming in that it's a discipline to craft a poem in the middle of an emotional crisis.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you craft that very well. You wrote something in Be Like Water that really struck me. You wrote that about being a water spirit. And do you think someone has to be older to become a water spirit? What is a water spirit in your own words now? And what do you think about that? Can a young person be a water spirit, or
Yes.
does that take time?
Yes, I think I have got a water spirit. I've definitely got a connection to water. I'm a Pisces. Some people say don't know whether you're coming or going.
Yeah.
But so I fall into that. I identify closely with water. I think it's about, if you think about water, it fills the space that it's in and it adapts to fit the space that it's in.
Yeah.
And I think I have that in my character.
Yeah.
I think I have that I've got that flexibility that allows me to fit into different situations. But I also think it's about one of the things that I like about thinking about water is if you put your hand in water, the water will surround it. If you take your hand out, the water just closes up on it. It moves on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's really true.
I think there's something about, I've realised when I've looked back on my life that I've spent periods of time in different locations and I completely immerse myself in the location that I'm in. Yeah. And I let go of the one that's gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's a watery spirit.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
I've written a lot of poetry about water. It intrigues me. It intrigues me that it's the only water that we've got, that there'll never be any more. And I think that makes me understand how precious water and waterways and lakes and rivers are, because if you pollute them, there's never going to be any more water.
And we really need.
As we know with
Yeah.
the lake down at Ladies Island.
Absolutely.
You know, so I'm part of an arts collective that's trying to respond to the lake. So I brought a couple more water poems with me.
Oh, okay. Do you want to read one?
Anything...
You want to read one?
Let me read you the words that I wrote. This is the lake's voice. This is the lake's voice. and
Okay.
it's called The Lake is Singing Out of Its Despair. My waters are the only water you will ever have. There will never be more water. My water was drunk by dinosaurs. My water was peed by elephants on African plains. My water baptized your babies and washed your dead before you laid them out. My water came from the Pacific and the Atlantic and the Sea of Galilee on nature's recycling, rain-bearing clouds. It flowed in our rivers and bubbled up in our holy wells. My water is sacred and you have defiled it. This is the everlasting, only, ever life-giving, only fountain. There will never be any more. Let's listen to the water, lilt its love story to us. Let's feel its melody in our bloodstream till we repent and redeem ourselves. Let's listen to its keening song without words.
That's beautiful, Deirdre. Now, Be Like Water, a very special book, a very personal book about you and your husband, Ed.
Yes.
In June 2014, you married Ed.
Yes.
3 years later, symptoms of Ed's dementia started to show. You cared for him, you loved him, and you spent the rest of his life with him. Can you tell us something about what it was like to put that book together? Because it is such a beautiful book.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It really, I was writing it as I was going through the process.
Yeah.
And it was my way of trying to deal with what was happening. And then I realised that it was going to be a book that would speak to other people who were going through the process. And it has proved to be. There are many, many copies that have been given in all kinds of situations to people who are caring for a partner, a loved one with dementia. So I didn't really set out to write a book. I just realised that I've got a book. And it was a part of the journey. It wasn't an easy journey, and it was a journey in which I had a lot of personal struggles because I felt as though I was losing myself in the caring role. And I got very, very tired, and the system isn't very good at supporting carers. And it was shocking to realise that when actually Ed did pass, a lot of the grieving had been done before he went. And in a funny kind of way, I began to feel better. Because it's a massive burden that, one person isn't supposed to carry two people. So a lot of conflict in the situation, personal internal conflict about what was going on. But I think I grew a lot through that situation. I did love Ed, I adored Ed. And that was a wonderful experience. And we had a wonderful life together.
Absolutely. Well, I met you and Ed, I think when we opened the bookshop, and you were inseparable. You wouldn't see one without the other. So you were a great team, and it was clear how much you loved each other. It's fascinating, Deirdre. We could talk to you all night. We could just leave you in here, but unfortunately we do have time constraints. In 2021, you set up a journal called Wexford Women Writing Undercover. Now I know submissions are currently opened for the latest edition, which I think is this number 5.
This is number 5, and there's been a bit of a gap between number 4 and this one. And it was partly because I really didn't feel that the magazine was as edgy as I wanted it to be. And I couldn't figure out how to make that happen. And then Deborah Doyle, who did the photograph on Between Husbands, and I were having a chat, and she came up with the idea, she came up with this thought, and I suddenly realised that that would be a great topic to cover in Undercover. And the topic is what women feel about their own bodies. You know, there are a lot of outside influences that affect women's attitudes to their bodies, and a lot of them are very negative. But Deborah came up with this idea that we would really encourage people to write anonymously, because we want them to write as honestly as they possibly can, and to feel safe about what they're writing. And I feel, you know, as you probably realise, I feel that's really important. It's difficult to be authentic and honest, and for people to know who you are. Well, in certain areas, I've reached the stage, I have to say, where I don't worry about that anymore. But that's not how it is for everybody. So so it's not just negative stuff, you know. Maybe you've got comfortable with your body, maybe it's scarred, maybe you've had operations, maybe people have made you feel bad about your body, but you've turned it round and you're now feeling good about yourself. So it's not all negative, but it's really exploring what only women can tell you about their attitude to their own bodies.
And what kind of submissions are
And
you?
Deborah and another artist, Sarah Roberts, are going to illustrate the pieces of work that come in.
Two fantastic
and
artists.
Myself and Aoife Byrne.
It's a
young
great
poet.
writer who will be launching her first book very shortly.
Absolutely lovely. The two of us are going to work on ordering the submission, putting them in order. And it's just a very exciting new venture again this year, coming out for Christmas. And Deborah would like it to be like a coffee table book.
Wonderful.
So every piece of writing will have some kind of illustration, photograph.
And when are submissions open till?
They're open till the end of May, but there's a little bit of flexibility on that. They need to send for guidelines to undercoverwex@gmail.com, and if you've got any concerns, you're not sure whether you've got the subject right, send me an email and we'll guide you through the process. We're even prepared to help you write your story. If you're not a writer and you've got something you want to say, we're prepared to help you write that.
Well, that's brilliant. And you know, Wexford Women Writing Undercover, a great anthology that's helped bring so many people to print. And you, Deirdre, have helped so many people, so many young people to find their poetic voice and to be heard. What would be your, I suppose, your message to young poets starting out? Maybe somebody who's at home now and has feeling the exact same thing you felt when you were a teenager.
Well, I would say it's great when you can start saying to yourself, I'm a poet. But I think the important thing is to get a pen in your hand and a notebook and just start writing. Just start writing. The way that I got going, and I follow this pattern still, this was when I was in my late 40s, the first thing I do on a morning is I write. I make a cup of tea, I go to the loo, and then I get back in bed and I write. before I start looking at diaries, screens, planning the day,
Well,
anything.
Yeah, well done.
And even 5 minutes, it's unbelievable what you can,
well, it would be,
what comes up out of the subconscious.
even
That's
for
great.
mindfulness, that would be good, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Not starting the day. I'm someone who does it myself. I start the day by looking at the news, and it's not good.
No,
It's
no,
really, really
don't
not
start
good.
today that way.
And the other thing I do in the notebook is I write on the right hand side and I leave the left hand side blank. And then I go back through those notebooks and I harvest ideas, lines,
That's a brilliant idea.
and
Yeah.
and they move onto the
Brilliant.
left hand side and develop into poems and
That's
ideas
fantastic.
for new ventures and all kinds of stuff.
Well, unfortunately, we are out of time this week, but it's been fascinating talking to you, Deirdre. I hope
Okay.
you'll come on with us again, and
Absolutely, I'd love to.
and
Thank
we'd
you.
love to hear more of your poetry.